Oh, hi there. What's going on? Hi, everyone. So glad that you guys are here. I always begin my session saying this, and today is no different. I'm going to say it. It's such an honor, such a pleasure to be called your teacher. What is going on, everyone in the chats? I'm so glad that you guys are here. I see a few people I know. I know that there are people here in the meeting whom I don't know. I know there are people in the meeting who have just seen your Javed, sir, and you guys might be curious about what is going to happen today. You know that we are going to talk about To the Nile by John Keats, and that is a simple poem. It is a 14-line poem. It is a Petrarchan sonnet. It is a grade 10 poem. It is a nature poem. We are going to talk about that poem, but remember, we are going to talk about it like no other teacher can talk about. We are here to revolutionize online education, not to give you the old lady classroom treatment, right? Not to give you the grandmama, retire when onna menna aapu teacher wage nemei. I'm here to give you the entire package of To the Nile by John Keats. If there are competitors here of Javitz's, I don't know, Hassan Nana, if you're here, if you watch the recording, HIV plus I forgot their names. If you guys watch the recording, Comrade, if you're watching the recording, if you have your students here, learn from the best, baby. We represent Isaac.com. We come from that side of the table. We come from the Isaac.com side. My pupils are here. If you are in this class, in fact, you are also my pupil. And as I always say, it is such an honor, such a pleasure to be called your teacher. You might remember I began the session saying that we are going to talk about To the Nile by John Keats. It is a grade 10 poem. However, even though it is a grade 10 poem, even though To the Nile by John Keats is taught for the grade 10 syllabus, you've got to remember that it is one of the heavier poems in your syllabus. Nangi, ketienkiwa nang amarui, it is difficult to learn if you don't have the best teacher on your side. But you got to remember that you've got the best teacher who teaches literature on your side. So To the Nile is not going to be that difficult. But you have to remember, out of the 20 poems in your syllabus, To the Nile by John Keats is a heavier poem, is a difficult poem. It is a grade 10 poem. It is a nature poem. And it is a 14-line poem with a formal rhyming scheme, so we call it a Petrarchan sonnet. I want you to memorize this right now, baby. It is a 14-line poem. It is a grade 10 poem. It is a nature poem. It is a 14-line poem with a formal rhyming scheme, so it's called a Petrarchan sonnet. We'll talk about To the Nile in a bit. We'll talk about the presentation that Javed has readied for you guys to make the learning process of this poem 1,000 times easy. However, before that, I have to remind you that if you leave the meeting, you can't join again because the meeting is going to be full in a few seconds. You got not well these days. So what I was saying was, sadly, if you leave, you will not be able to join the meeting again because ironically, we are out of slots in the meeting. Only 100 people can join. However, for some reason, if you leave, please watch the live streaming that is happening right now on YouTube, okay? So the exact same seminar right now is there on YouTube. Go and show us some love through YouTube, comment, share, subscribe, do everything. Share on TikTok, share on WhatsApp, do everything that you can. Support our cause, support Isaac.com because we are here to serve you guys. Our mutual goal is your education, you getting an A for all your subjects, not just literature. You getting a sweet A for all of your subjects is our mutual goal, baby. Here at Isaac.com, we're going to jump right in. We are going to talk about To the Nile by John Keats. Again, remember, it is a grade 10 poem. It is a nature poem. It is a Petrarchan sonnet, 14-line poem with a formal rhyming scheme. That's it. If you understand that, you have made progress. One more time, To the Nile is a grade 10 poem. To the Nile is a nature poem. It is a 14-line poem with a formal rhyming scheme, and it's called a Petrarchan sonnet. We'll talk about that in a bit. Jump right into our presentation. The meeting is also full. By the way, if you guys leave the meeting, you have to go and watch the YouTube live stream. If you guys can go into youtube.com, Isaac, type Isaac and get into YouTube. Let me show you, by the way, okay? We can show the screen share right on YouTube. Give me a moment. By the way, let me disable annotation. Perfect. If you were to go to isaac.com, okay, go to YouTube. And if you type in isaac.com, baby, the first thing that you're going to see is our live stream. If you joined this meeting using a existing link, under the link, you guys might find our YouTube live stream. Asma, send me the YouTube live stream. You know the YouTube live stream link I sent you guys. Someone sent it to me through the chat. Here it is. Here we are, baby. Boom. That's the YouTube live stream, okay? All right. Okay. Thanks a lot, Shahat. Okay, so share the YouTube live stream with everyone. All right, I need your help. Share the YouTube live stream with everyone here. With your friends, with your grandmama, with your Allapugedara Nangi, Allapugedara Akka. Share the YouTube live stream with whoever you guys can. I will appreciate it so much. All right, here we are. Okay. Let me quickly copy this, and here we are. For all of you guys. So yeah, would appreciate that a lot, okay? Okay, that's shitty. Shit happens sometimes, you know, excuse my language, by the way. Whenever I plan something perfectly, something has to go wrong. Okay, we copy this manually. Copy kara. Paste kara, okay. Garangan depa, okay, matama, asvaha, it is what you call in Sinhalese. Kannuru, in Tamil we say. Okay, perfect. So I don't know why this didn't work though. Now, why does the keyboard works? For some reason, copy and paste doesn't work. For some unknown reason. Control C is copyright. Shit, it doesn't work. Okay, gonna jump right in. We're talking about To the Nile by John Keats. Boom. Grade 10 poem. Boom. 14-line poem. Boom, boom. Apart from that, it is a poem under the theme of nature. Boom, boom, boom. That is basically the crux of the poem. If you memorize that, if you know that To the Nile by John Keats is a 14-line grade 10 poem under the theme of nature, you are making progress. When you learn a poem, and remember there are 20 poems in your syllabus, when you start learning poetry in your syllabus, reading and understanding the poems is not literature basically. You have to take a different approach when you learn poetry in our syllabus. The first thing that you got to know, or the first thing that you got to focus on, is understanding the background of the poem. Because in the exam, when you write your essay type questions, we call them what assist? We call them analysis. When you write your analysis in the exam, you've got to write a background. You have to write an introduction about the background of the poem. So once again, one more time, To the Nile by John Keats is a Petrarchan sonnet, 14-line poem under the theme of nature. It's taught for the grade 10 syllabus. Don't write that in the exam. But remember, you are learning a grade 10 poem. Take out your appreciation book and go to the first page. What do you see? You see To the Nile by John Keats. Even though the first poem that you learn is The Eagle by Alfred Lord Tennyson, the first poem that you see when you open up your appreciation book is To the Nile by John Keats. Can you believe that? We'll talk about the poems under the theme of nature in a future session, but remember there are 4 poems under the theme of nature. Are we learning all 4 of these poems? Absolutely not. We are only focusing on To the Nile by John Keats, poem under the theme of nature, 14-line poem, formal rhyming scheme, Petrarchan sonnet we call this. By the way, John Keats is the guy who wrote To the Nile. Should you learn about John Keats? No. In our syllabus, we don't care about the creator. We care more about the creation. We don't care when John Keats was born. We don't care what kind of a poet John Keats was. As long as you can spell his name properly, by God, you will get 1 mark in the exam, baby. So as I was saying, take a look right here. John Keats is the guy who wrote To the Nile. Remember, that is all you have to mention about John Keats. Don't waste time writing paragraphs about the creator in the exam. You are O-level pupils. You only focus on the poems. And surprise, right? A literature teacher who can actually speak in English. Isn't that crazy? Hi, if you're a literature teacher, hi, learn from the best. Okay. The poem is a sonnet. Remember, this is the only sonnet in our syllabus. How many poems are there in our syllabus? There are 20 poems, baby. Me, poem Vissen. This is the only poem that is a sonnet, okay? Why is it a sonnet, huh? You might ask me, hey, Javed, sir, why is To the Nile by John Keats a sonnet? You got to remember that it's given in the teacher's guide, okay? I am a teacher, basically. It is said in the teacher's guide, hiya. So that's the reason it's a sonnet. But if you really want to know the reason, okay? If you really want to know why it's a sonnet, remember the poem has 14 lines, okay? You guys know what lines are. If you group a bunch of lines together, you get a what? Sonnet, Bambu, you get a stanza, right? When you group a bunch of lines together, you get a stanza. And that is why you got to look at the visuals of the poem. In the sense, not the visual imagery. No. Before you start reading the poem, you have to measure the poem. Right, this poem has 4 lines. 4 lines are called quatrains. 4 lines are called quatrains. This poem has 3 lines. 3 lines are called tercets. That poem has 8 lines. 8 lines are called octaves. Hope you understand that, okay? You look at the number of lines found in the poems. And in this case, To the Nile by John Keats. Grade 10 poem, nature poem, 14-line poem. Neither the poem has boom, 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 14 lines. How many stanzas? Now, what is a stanza, by the way? A collection of lines. A collection of pupils are called a class. A collection of politicians are called a parliament. A collection of lions are called a pride. And a collection of lines are called a stanza. Isn't that easy? So in To the Nile by John Keats, there is only 1 stanza. You don't have to talk about that stanza because Visheshayen, you don't have to talk about it. However, you have to remember if there is a 14-line poem and that poem has a formal rhyming scheme. We'll talk about what the rhyming scheme is, okay? Really easy. Harimalesi. However, remember if there is a poem with 14 lines, and if there is a poem, if that poem has a formal rhyming scheme, that poem is a sonnet. Remember that. Isn't that easy? So To the Nile by John Keats is the only sonnet in your syllabus. There is no other sonnet in your syllabus. To the Nile out of the 20 poems in your syllabus, okay? Who gave you the 20 poems? Your syllabus did, right? In your syllabus, out of the 20 poems that are prescribed for you, Nangi, have 1 sonnet only. What is that sonnet called? What is that sonnet called? It's called To the Nile by John Keats. Hope I'm not lagging. Okay, let me know if I'm lagging though. Gonna move forward then. So how do you find the rhyming scheme of a poem? Now you guys know Twinkle, Twinkle, Kapadia. Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, right? An easy, simple poem you guys learned when you were children. How many lines do you have in the poem? Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. You've got 4 lines in that poem, right? Apologies. 4 lines in the stanza. Neither. There's 1 stanza, right? 1 stanza. And how many lines do you have in that stanza? Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. You've got 4 lines. Twinkle, twinkle, little star. How I wonder what you are up above the world so high, like a diamond in the sky. Do you see that there is a mewayakak, there is a mokakda, there is a rhyme in the poem, isn't there? Star and R rhyme with each other. High and sky rhyme with each other, right? What do you mean by rhyme? The words sound the same. The ending part of the word sound the same. Star and R. If you look at my mouth, if I overpronounce these words, something that I like doing, overpronouncing words. If I say star and if I say R, my mouth does not change, right? If I say high and I say sky, the movement of my mouth is quite identical in both of those scenarios when I pronounce those words. So boom, boom, boom. You got to remember that these are words that rhyme with each other. So what is the rhyming scheme of Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star? It is double A. Because they rhyme with each other, I give them the same letter. They rhyme with each other, I give them the same letter. But remember, R does not rhyme with high. Isn't that crazy? So I cannot give them the same letter. ඊළඟ ඉංග්‍රීසි අකුර is B. So I'm gonna call this double A, double B. The rhyming scheme of Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star is double A, double B. How many lines did you find in Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star? 4 lines. How many stanzas did you find in Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star? Nangi, you found 4 stanzas. Did you not? You found 4 stanzas, and that's exactly what we need for one stanza. One stanza. In that stanza, you found 4 lines. We're going to move forward then. We are going to talk about To the Nile by John Keats. Remember, it is a sonnet. Why is To the Nile by John Keats a sonnet? Because it has how many lines? It has 14 lines. It has a formal rhyming scheme. Any poem in the world that has 14 lines and has a formal rhyming scheme is a sonnet. Again, to find the rhyming scheme, Nangi oya mona kala dihada balanna one. Oya kone kala diha balanna one. What? Once again, if your teacher asks you, Fatima, how do you find the rhyming scheme of a poem? Miss Teacher, look at the kone kala. Look at the corner piece. I know you brilliant children of good, respectable families have a good idea regarding the corner piece of these poems. So in every line, how many lines do you have in To the Nile by John Keats? Satapata Chatagala Kian, even though you can't unmute your mic, I can read your mind. Javed has that power to read your mind. So tell me with your mind voice, there are 14 lines in To the Nile by John Keats. Apart from these 14 lines, you got to remember it has a formal rhyming scheme. Hammer line ekakama mona kala dihada nangi oya balanna one kone kala diha balanna one. African rhymes with span. Span rhymes with began. Don't worry about the meaning of these words, okay? The meaning of these words are not important now. Right now, what are you doing? You are learning about To the Nile by John Keats, grade 10 poem, 14-line poem. You are trying to figure out why the poem is called a Petrarchan sonnet. And in order to find the rhyming scheme, you are looking at the monakal diha, you are looking at the kone kal diha. Parisamem balana lamai kone kali diha. African rhymes with span, rhymes with began, rhymes with Deccan. If you don't know the meanings of these words, it's completely fine. Just remember the rhyme, okay? African rhymes with span, rhymes with began, rhymes with Deccan. Isn't that easy? However, let me quickly switch the color of this pen here, okay? However, if you take a look at words like crocodile, if you take a look at words like while, if you take a look at words like beguile, if you take a look at words like toil, these are rhyming words, neither. Crocodile, while, beguile, and toil are rhyming words. So now you can get a good idea regarding the rhyming scheme of To the Nile. How did you find the rhyming scheme? You looked at the Kone Kal. How many Kone Kali do you have in To the Nile? You have Kone Kali, Da, Hatarak. You've got 14 Kone Kali into the Nile. How did you find the Kone Kali? You looked at every line. How many lines are there into the Nile by John Keats? Tell me, there are 14 lines into the Nile by John Keats. It is a sonnet. It is the only sonnet in your syllabus. If a teacher tells you that there are more sonnets in the syllabus, if a teacher tells you that To the Evening Star is a sonnet in the syllabus, Kane Parak Gahala Kiyan na, it doesn't have a formal rhyming scheme. To the Nile has 14 lines and it has a formal rhyming scheme, baby. Hope you understand. We're going to move forward in that case. So again, what is the rhyming scheme of To the Nile? Again, if you take a look at these Kone Kali, you can come to an assumption one more time, once again, Javed sir won't leave you like that. sometimes ඔයාට පොඩ්ඩක් තේරෙන්නේ නැතුව ඇති. Don't worry about the meanings into the Nile by John Keats. Don't worry about the meanings of the words. Focus more on the rhyme, baby. So once again, African rhymes with span, rhymes with began, rhymes with Deccan. I gave them the same letter, right? African is given the letter A, span is given the letter A, Deccan is given the letter A. You can't forget, began is also given the letter A, right? Apart from that, you can also find other rhyming words such as crocodile, while, beguile, and toil. Look at all of those words. When I pronounce those words, my mouth ends in the same position. Crocodile. I'm smiling, right? When I say crocodile, when I say while, when I say beguile, when I say toil, I'm smiling in the end. Why does my mouth stop at the same position when I pronounce those words? Because because they are rhyming words. Easy, neither. Everyone, put your hands up if you know how to find the rhyme of a stanza. 14-line poem, one stanza poem under the theme of nature. Mona kala diha the baba oya balan one kone kala diha. You've got to take a look at the kone kala, baby. All right. When we talk about the kone kala and we found the rhyming scheme, we'll say that we were able to find the rhyming words of all of these 14 lines. What kind of a rhyming scheme are you going to get? When you learn about To the Nile, you are going to get this rhyming scheme. It's called ABBA, ABBA, CD, CD, CD. Not podi, 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 neme baba, baba neme baba, ABBA, ABBA, CD, CD, CD. What's the rhyming scheme of To the Nile? If someone asks you, Baba, what is the rhyming scheme of To the Nile? You will say, Madam, Miss, Akki. It is Abba, Abba, Baba Neme, Abba, Abba, Podi, Podi Neme, CD, CD, CD. Who are these people? This is a band called ABBA. Your grandparents might have heard about this band. Your grandparents might have been fans of this band right here. So one more time, what is the rhyming scheme of To the Nile by John Keats? Sata pata chata gala kiapa aba kianna mage deyo. It is Abba, Abba, CD, CD, CD. Repeat this 100 times, okay? Repeat this in your mind hundreds of times, because you know that I can definitely read your mind. Now turn on your cameras and take off your clothes. I'm kidding. We are talking about To the Nile by John Keats, 14-line poem, formal rhyming scheme, a sonnet. It is a sonnet with the ABBA, ABBA, CD, CD, CD rhyming scheme. One more time, ABBA, ABBA, CD, CD, CD rhyming scheme. You can, however, count the number of letters on your screen. ABBA, ABBA, CD, CD, CD. How many lines, how many letters are you going to get? You're going to get 14 letters, right? Exactly. Shad, genius you are. What's going on? Alia, Alia, you're right. Mamma Mia is a song by ABBA. I Have a Dream, a song to sing, is a song by ABBA. Give me a man after midnight is a song by ABBA. What is a famous song by ABBA? Give me a man after midnight. Haram. Okay. If you count the number of lines, what's going on? Akil, glad you're here. If you count the number of letters here, 1, we have 2, we have 3, 4, we have 5, we have 6, we have 7, we have 8. We've got 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. My God, isn't that crazy? Can you believe that? 14 letters, 14 lines. Isn't that crazy? Aditya, what's going on, man? My pupils are like dropping highs left and right. 14 lines, 14 letters. Mind blown, neither. So To the Nile by John Keats is a 14-line poem under the theme of nature. Who calls the poem a nature poem? In our syllabus. The poem is classified under the theme of nature, baby. You've got to remember when we talked about the ABBAABBA CDCDCD rhyming scheme. Api balua lamai mona kal dihada. We took a look at the Kone kal of Javed sir genne nana. We took a look at the Kone kal of every line here. Too easy, right? Damn easy, man. So as I always say, literature is not about starting to read the poems the moment you open the book. That is not literature. Literature is understanding the poem, measuring the poem before you start learning it. So basically, we have measured the poem. We know that there were 14 lines. We know the ABBAABBA rhyming scheme. We know it's a poem under the theme of nature. And because, remember, it is the only sonnet in your syllabus, telling Petrarchan, it is not an ode, okay? Some people might tell you that To the Nile is an ode. Nah, To the Nile is not an ode. It does not have the rhyming scheme, the structure of an ode. To the Nile is not an ode. It is only a what? It's the only sonnet in your syllabus. Very easy, right? 14-line poem, only sonnet in your syllabus. Tell me, Nangi, what's the rhyming scheme? It's ABBAABBA rhyming scheme. ABBAABBA CDCDCD rhyming scheme. Balle balle shaba. We're going to move forward. Before you learn about To the Nile, there's a technique I want to talk to you about. And that technique is called personification. What do you mean by personification? It means you are giving human qualities to a non-human thing. Nangi, it's called personification. Can you believe that? Now, imagine that you've got a room and there is a chair in the middle of that room. You say that the chair is standing. Can the chair really stand? Can the chair actually stand? No, that's a personification. Giving human qualities to a non-human thing is called personification. You can find various things around you, various objects around you, and you can give them human qualities. What's going on, Nabila? Glad you're here. For example, I am kissing the bottle, right? When I take a sip of water, I kiss the bottle. But does the bottle feel that love? Does the bottle feel the sensation of a kiss? No. That is clearly a personification. Sayyida Nabila, what's going on, Nangi? Akil, what's going on? That is a personification because the bottle doesn't have lips. The bottle doesn't have emotion. When I kiss the bottle while drinking water, or I say the bottle kisses me, when I drink a sip of water, that is a personification. Don't you believe that? By the way, if you guys have any problems joining the meeting, join through Google, YouTube. By the way, we have a YouTube live happening right now. So direct your friends towards the YouTube live. Also, again, let me share the YouTube live link with you guys. Spam everyone. Spam every friend, every WhatsApp, every Telegram group. Spam everyone, okay? Okay. To the Nile by John Keats. 14-line poem. Poem under the theme of nature. ABBAABBA CDCDCD rhyming scheme. That, if you know that, you're amazing. You're a legend. However, you got to remember the theme called personification. In the early morning, it's raining outside. Your bed sheet hugs you in the early morning. Can the bed sheet hug you, Fatima? Absolutely not. It doesn't have emotion. It doesn't have hands. That is an example for personification. You guys might have learned The Eagle by Alfred Lord Tennyson, right? He clasps the crag with crooked hands. Put your hands up if you learned The Eagle by Alfred Lord Tennyson. Does the eagle really have hands? Absolutely not. It is what a sonification. It's called personification, baby. You've got to remember, personification is a very important technique found in To the Nile by John Keats. Apart from that, we talked about personification found in real life. The chair standing is a personification. How about this? You urgently want to use your toilet and you find someone inside the toilet, man. When you really want to kaki choo choo, there's someone inside the toilet and you knock on the toilet door and you say, hey, the toilet is calling my name. The comet is calling my name. Is the comet really calling your name? No, that is a personification. Hope that makes sense. You go to your school canteen, you pull out 1,000 rupee note, and your friend says, Machi, your money is smiling at me, right? Machi, Fatima, your money is smiling at me. That is another example for a personification because the money can't smile at you. Giving human qualities to a non-human thing is called personification. Hope that makes sense. If you understand personification, you are a legend. Now, Fatima has a problem, okay? I'm talking about Fatima, my good student. Every once a month, okay? Listen very carefully. Every once a month, she has a monthly exam in school. She has a monthly exam in school. And whenever she starts writing the exam, her pen starts leaking. She has a Chinese pen, I think, doesn't work properly. Her pen starts leaking and she starts saying, sir, the pen is bleeding. Can the pen really bleed though? Absolutely not. It is a personification. Why are we learning about personification right now? We learn about personification because in To the Nile by John Keats, the main technique that you can find is what a sonification, baby. You find personification. Why is To the Nile a sonnet? Because it has Satapatagala Kiana. It's got 14 lines and it has a formal rhyming scheme. What is the rhyming scheme found in To the Nile by John Keats, baby? It is Abba, Abba, Baba Neme, Abba, Abba, Podi Neme, CD, CD, CD. Isn't that easy? A 14-line poem with the ABBAABBA CDCDCD rhyming scheme. Because of this rhyming scheme, it's called a Petrarchan sonnet. Can you believe that? It's in our syllabus, okay? It's not a Nikang sonnet. It is called a Petrarchan sonnet. Why is it a Petrarchan sonnet? Because of the ABBA CDCDCD rhyming scheme. How did we find the rhyming scheme of To the Nile by John Keats? We looked at the monocal. We looked at the Kone Cal. Can you believe that? We're going to move forward. We talked about the rhyming scheme. We talked about To the Nile being a Petrarchan sonnet. We talked about the ABBAABBA CDCDCD rhyming scheme, 14-line poem under the theme of nature. What is the main technique you find in To the Nile? What a sonification. Personification. What do you mean by personification? Giving human qualities to a non-human thing, okay? The main theme you find, the main technique. The main technique you find in To the Nile is personification. The first line of the poem goes like this. Son of the old moon, mountain African. By the way, you got to memorize the poems. If you can, if you are free, memorize all of the poems, okay? Son of the old moon, mountains African, chief of the pyramid and crocodiles. We call thee fruitful. Art thou so fruitful? I can't properly remember, but you get the point, right? Memorize the entire poem, okay? We call thee fruitful, and that very while a desert fills our seeings, inward span, nurse of what nation since the world began. Art thou so fruitful, or dost thou beguile such men to honor thee, who rest for a space twixt Cairo, who worn with toil rest for a space twixt Cairo and Deccan? I know it might feel like Greek. I know this might feel so complicated. Why does the poem feel so complicated when you start memorizing it? The reason is because there is something found in the poem called archaic language, okay? So what do you mean by archaic language? Again, now we are starting to read the poem. We understand the background of the poem. You know it's a 14-line poem under the theme of nature. ABBAABBA CDCDCD rhyming scheme. John Keats, Petrarchan sonnet. You know that. You know the background about the poem, but right now you're finding it difficult because there is a technique called archaic language found in the poem. What do you mean by archaic language? English or any language that is outdated yet formal. Formal and outdated. It is called archaic language. Hope that makes sense. Hope you understand that. We'll talk about the meanings behind the poem very soon. But remember, you are going to make your life a lot more easier if you start memorizing the poem. Of course, it's going to be kind of difficult to memorize it, but you got to promise Javed, sir, okay? Look at me. Look at Javed, sir. Make me a pinky promise that you are going to start memorizing To the Nile by John Keats from today onwards. In order to learn the poem and in order to memorize the poem, you've got to understand that it has two parts. Kali dekak tiyenawa, okay? If you take a look at the rhyming scheme, remember we talked about the rhyming scheme. What is it? It's Mogadda Baba, it's Abba, Abba, and then it is CD, CD, CD. So do you understand the rhyming scheme changes in the middle, right? If you take a look at this part right here, it has 8 lines, right? So remember, a letter equals 1 line. Abba, Abba has 8 lines. And CD, 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 I know you guys are geniuses. How many lines do you find in CD, CD, CD? You find 6 lines. Neither. If you add 6 to 8, you get 14. Can you believe that? Javed's teaching you maths also. If you add 6 to 8, you get 14. Mind blown. Tomorrow, next week, we're going to learn about shapes. Triangles, yakirim, match triangles, match circles. I'm kidding. Hope you understand why you get 14 lines in this example. What's the reason? Because the letters equal the number of lines in the poem. How did we get these letters? From where have we gotten the ABBAABBA CDCDCD letters from? We got them from the poem's rhyming scheme. We looked at the what cal, baby? We looked at the kone cal of every line. That means the number of letters in the rhyming scheme and the number of lines must be the same. The rhyming scheme changes a bit, right? Abba, Abba becomes CD, CD, CD. The Uda cal right here, Abba, 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 right? The Uda cal right here has 8 lines. The Yata cal right here has 6 lines. What do you guys like? Uda cal or Yata cal? I like both of them. I like both of these Kali. In order to learn To the Nile by John Keats, you've got to understand and learn both of these Kali. Javed says going to make your life really easy. Asma is like, can you share the archaic language? Absolutely, I can, Asma. A new Asma is here. Absolutely, you're goddamn right, I can, Nangi. Here we are. Here's the archaic language, the meaning behind the archaic terms. But don't worry. After the seminar is over, Nangi, you are going to be teaching your teacher at school what the archaic language is in To the Nile by John Keats. So once again, why is the poem so difficult? Why is the poem so heavy? Because the poem is filled with archaic language. That's the reason, okay? So one more time, To the Nile, John Keats, 14-line poem. ABBA, ABBA, rhyming scheme. Abba, Abba, CD, 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 rhyming scheme. A Petrarchan sonnet, personification. Memorize the poem. We are going to jump onto line number 1, okay? Right here, baby. Right here, we've got line number 1. What is the poem called? It's called To the Nile. In the poem, in that case, whom is the narrator talking to? If you don't know who the narrator is, the narrator is the speaker in the poem. The narrator is talking to the river Nile. But you got to remember, we talked about a technique in the beginning. When you give human qualities to an unhuman thing. Now, for example, when I say, I like kissing my bottle. Right? That is a personification. The bottle is personified. The bottle is personified. What kind of a river Nile is this? when the narrator talks to the river Nile, okay? How many lines do you have in the poem? You've got 14 lines. What line are we talking about right now? We are talking about line number 1. If you take a look at the 14 lines, if you take a look at the first line, you see that the narrator is talking to the river Nile, because it's in the title, right? Now imagine if you write a letter to your ammi. To ammi, you're writing a letter. To Fatima. To Fatima's mama. It doesn't matter. When you write a letter and you say to a person, you are sending that letter or you are communicating with that person, right? In this poem, it is to the Nile. Whom is the narrator communicating with? The narrator is communicating with the personified river Nile, baby. The narrator is communicating with the personified river Nile. Why do I say it's a personified river Nile? What do you mean by personification? Giving human qualities to a non-human thing. When the narrator looks at the river Nile, what does he think about? He thinks about a human. For the narrator, the river Nile is a human, okay? What does the narrator call the river Nile? Son of the old moon mountain African. Remember, the word son is directed towards the personified river Nile, right? The word son is directed towards the personified river Nile. Is the river Nile really a son? Absolutely not. Again, it's a personification. It's a personification. Does the bottle really kiss Javed on the lips? No, it is a personification. Hope that makes sense, okay? I'm just really thirsty. I'm using this as an excuse to drink some good water. Sweating out all of my water before I swallow it. Okay. So again, son of the old moon mountains, African. The moon is old. Apologies. The mountain is old, right? Moon mountain. That's an interesting technique. So sun again is a personification. Whom does the sun personify? The word sun personifies the river Nile. You have to imagine the speaker, the narrator of the poem, looking at the river Nile and saying, son of the old moon mountains, African. Hope you understand that, okay? So imagine this. Imagine someone looking at me and saying, hey, son of Hossein, you are Javed Hossein, you are son of Hossein. Like that, the narrator sees the river Nile and is like, hey, you are son of the old moon mountain African. So in this case, where is this old moon mountain? It's given in the line, right? It's not difficult to understand. The old moon mountain is in Africa, obviously. Apart from that, though, you got to remember there is an important technique. There's a heavy technique right here. Once again, who is the sun here? The sun is the personified river Nile. Where is the river Nile? Obviously in Africa, right? Isn't that crazy? It's in Africa. It's given in the text itself. This is line number 1, moon mountain. You see 2 nouns put together. All right. This is where many teachers make their biggest mistakes. Many teachers cannot identify metaphors, okay? What is a metaphor, though? When you take 2 nouns and you compare them directly, all right, it becomes a metaphor. For example, you guys might remember The Eagle by Alfred Lord Tennyson, mountain walls. That is a metaphor. Heart of gold is a metaphor. Moon mountain is a metaphor. The mountains are so high up in the sky, they touch the moon. Can you believe that? The mountains are so high up in the sky, they touch the moon. That is why it is a metaphor. Because really, can you find moon mountains on the earth? Is that real? No, right? It's a metaphor. There are so many examples for metaphors, but again, we can't talk about all of them or in a seminar. But you got to remember, when we say son of the old moon mountains African, who is the narrator calling a son? The river Nile, right? The what river Nile? The personified river Nile. Apart from that, this river Nile is the son of the Old Moon Mountains. Where are these Old Moon Mountains? In Europe, Sri Lanka, Africa, right, baby? Why is it in Africa? Because it's given right there. Son, why is my name Javed Hossain? It's in my birth certificate. Why is this an African moon mountain? It's given in the text itself. It's given in the line itself. So son of the Old Moon Mountains, African, talks about where the river Nile is. Where is the river Nile? It's in Africa. The river Nile is personified using a masculine noun, masculine personification. Son of the Old Moon Mountains, African. Who is the narrator talking to? Who is the speaker talking to? He is talking to the personified river Nile. Too easy, right? We're going to move forward. Remember, there are 14 lines. Right now, we have completed one line. Take a look at this slide, baby. Absorb it all in, soak it all in. What is the line that comes into mind when you look at this? Son of the Old Moon Mountains, African. One more time. Son of the Old Moon Mountain, African. Going to move forward then. How about this? Second line, okay? This is line number 2. How many lines do we have in To the Nile by John Keats? 14 lines. It's a what? Sonnet. It's a Petrarchan sonnet. If you don't remember how to spell Petrarchan, take a look at this picture right here, okay? Boom. Pet, like doggy pussy. Rar, like this software called WinRAR. Everybody's computer has this software, right? Especially if you're a gamer like your Javed sir. Gamer, okay? The mer is very important. If you are a gamer like Javed sir, don't cut off the mer, okay? You might use this software, WinRAR. And you know who this guy is? Jackie Chan, baby. So this is an easy way to spell Petrarchan. Petrarchan. What is a Petrarchan? It's a Petrarchan sonnet. Okay. Why is To the Nile by John Keats a Petrarchan sonnet? Because it has 14 lines and it has the ABBAABBA CDCDCD rhyming scheme. How did we find the ABBAABBA CDCDCD rhyming scheme? Mona Kala Dihada Nanga, we take a look at. We looked at the Kone Kal 14-line poem, ABBAABBA CDCDCD rhyming scheme under the theme of nature. This is a Petrarchan sonnet because it has 14 lines, because it had the ABBAABBA CDCDCD rhyming scheme, baby. Gonna move forward then. We talked about line number 1, and we are gonna jump right into line number 2, baby. So in line number 1, what was the image that you got? You got this image right here. Son of the what moon mountains, African, baby. Son of the Old Moon Mountains, African. Who is the sun here? The personified river Nile is the sun. Why has the narrator personified the river Nile? To show respect, to show value, right? That is the reason the river Nile is shown, is personified. Too easy. Going to move forward then. Line number 2. Chief of the pyramid and crocodile. What do you mean by chief? Chief is a leader, a tribal leader, okay? It's given right here. Chief is a tribal leader. I believe if you guys are wrestling fans, you guys might know Roman Reigns. Put your hands up if there are any fans of Roman Reigns here, right? They call him the tribal chief, right? The tribal chief, Roman Reigns. So from that, you get an image. So what kind of a person is Roman Reigns? He's small-made, he's weak, he's afraid. No, right? He's brave, he is ready to fight, he's a leader, he's the tribal chief. Here we are, chief of the pyramid and crocodile. Isn't that easy? This right here is again a personification of the river Nile, right? Who is the sun? The river Nile is the sun. Son of the what? Son of the Old Moon Mountain, African. Who is the chief? Who is the tribal leader? The river Nile. Summa river Nile, the personified river Nile. It is the personified river Nile, baby. Hope you understand. Hope you understand this, okay? So we're talking about the river Nile being personified twice. Son of the old moon mountain African, chief of the pyramid and crocodile. What's the image that you guys are going to get? Boom, right here. You think of a chief. I should have had Roman Reigns' picture here. If you guys don't know who Roman Reigns is, he's a wrestler. In WWE, he's a wrestler. Okay, where do you find the pyramids in, though? You find the pyramids in Egypt, right? Where do you find the crocodiles? The crocodiles are in the river Nile. It shows the ecosystem you find inside the river Nile. But what kind of an ecosystem do you find inside the river Nile? Is it a peaceful, innocent, calming ecosystem? No, it's a deadly, dangerous ecosystem you find inside the river Nile. Again, the narrator is trying to make the river Nile seem like it is powerful, baby. The narrator is trying to show that the river Nile is powerful. How does the narrator do this? By using a technique called personification. What do you mean by personification? Giving human qualities to a non-human thing, that is called personification. The river Nile is personified. Son of the old moon mountains African. Who is the son? The personified river Nile. Chief of the pyramid and crocodile. Who is the chief? Who is the tribal leader? The personified river Nile. Isn't that easy? However, you have to understand that sun gives you an image of a young person, a youthful person. Chief gives you an image of a more advanced, wise person. Not very important, okay? In the end of the day, who is the sun? The sun is the river Nile, personified river Nile. Who is the chief? The chief is also the personified river Nile. Here is lines number 3 and 4, okay? How many lines do you have in the poem? You have 14 lines in the poem, baby. We call thee fruitful. And that very while a desert fills our seeing's inward span. You have to learn both of these lines together. Now here is a tricky word. Now you guys might remember we talked about archaic language, right? We talked about archaic language. The is an archaic term. It's an archaic word. What does the mean? The means you. It is outdated. It is informal. It is formal and outdated. That is what we call an archaic word. That's what we call archaic language in our syllabus. So we, the narrator's people, right? We call thee fruitful. What do you mean by fruitful? Tiyena de kanawada nathang ඇති වෙන්න දෙනවද? What do you mean by fruitful? Sometimes imagine in school, you open up a bad parcel and all the buggers start coming to your desk and eat the food and put the food inside their pockets, throw the food out all around the classroom, right? Not like them, right? What do you mean by fruitful? Not trying to take something from you. It's trying to give you something, right? It's useful. It is offering you value, creating value, like teachers, like the best teachers, okay? Not like the 90% of teachers out there, hardworking teachers who want to give you a good future, who want to give you A's, who want to excel your education, nangis and mallis. We call thee fruitful. Who is the narrator talking to? The narrator is talking to the personified river Nile. We call thee fruitful. And that very wide. A desert, what do you mean by desert? Custard pudding, ice cream. No, desert here is basically a wasteland, a land where there are no trees, where there is no water, where there is only death. We call thee fruitful. And that very while a desert fills our seeing's inward span. What do you mean by seeing's inward span? You see using your eyes, right? Obviously, right? Veena deval nemei. You see using your eyes. A desert fills our seeing's inward span. What is the only thing that we can see? Trees and monkeys and animals and what? No, the only thing that we can see is a desert. We call thee fruitful, O river Nile. And that very while, at that time, very while means at that exact time, a desert fills our seeing's inward span. Our limit of sight is filled only by a desert. Can you believe that? Too easy, right? Really easy. We talked about 4 lines into the Nile by John Keats. In the page with the whole poem, it was spelled desert. Here it's spelled desert. No, it's not right. I guess, the bottom part here, apologies. Small, there is a small mistake here, right? Boom, right here. Not with 1 S, by the way, not 2 S's, okay? Here it's desert, okay? I did not see this part. Thanks a lot, Zaid. You've done a very important thing for me, okay? So going to move forward. Again, I hope I'm not lagging because, again, I can't lag because I've got really fast internet. I'm like the only teacher in Sri Lanka with the fastest internet out there. So I won't lag at all. If you think I'm lagging, it's you're lagging, okay? Because I've got really fast. As you guys can see, we've invested a lot of money on online classes, again, to give you the best experience possible. So, as I was saying, though, when we talk about To the Nile by John Keats, we have talked about 4 lines, right? The narrator is talking to the personified river Nile. He calls the personified river Nile the son of the old moon mountains, African, chief of the pyramid and crocodile. When you think of a sun, you think of a kutti, right? A small boy. However, sun is energetic, a sun is youthful. Who is the son here? The personified river Nile. Who is the chief here? The personified river Nile. Chief of the pyramid and crocodile. Chief of the pyramid and crocodile. We call thee fruitful. What do you mean by that? We, the narrator's people, are calling the river Nile fruitful. The river Nile does not take. The river Nile keeps giving. And that very while, a desert fills our seeing's inward span. The only thing that we can see is a desert. That's what is meant here, okay? What is a desert? A desert is a waste land. The only thing that you guys should focus on is associating the lines with imagery. When you think about son of the old moon mountains, African baby, you think of this image right here. Son of the old moon mountains, African. Where is the river Nile? In Africa. What is the river Nile? It is the son of the old moon mountains. Moon mountains is a metaphor. What is meant by the moon mountains? The mountains are so high up in the sky that they are almost touching the moon, right? And they're like white, by the way. Now, you guys might have seen when mountains get really tall, their tip is like white color. You guys might have seen white color tips, right? When mountains become really tall. So that is what the narrator means here. So basically, you can visualize what's going on here, right? Son of the old moon mountains, African, chief of the pyramid and crocodile. This is the image that you must associate with line number 2. Do you guys remember line number 3 and 4? Put your hands up if you memorized line numbers 3 and 4. We call thee fruitful. And that very while a desert fills our seeing's inward span. We are calling the river Nile. Who are we? Not Javed and his pupils. No. We are the narrator's people. The narrator and his people. The speaker of the poem and his people. We call thee fruitful. And that very while a desert fills our seeing's inward span. The only thing that we can see is a desert. That's it. So despite having a desert, despite being surrounded, a desert fills our seeing's inward span. The limit of our sight is filled with a desert. The only thing that you can see surrounding the river Nile is a desert, baby. That is the image you get when you take a look at these 2 lines right here. So this is the image you get when you think of fruitfulness. You think of fertility. You think of prosper, right? All right. Okay. Why is sun highlighted as capital letters in the first line? Not there is no particular reason. It is how you usually begin any work. For example, short stories. In our syllabus, we call them prose, right? And poems also, you can begin with a capital letter. It's a tradition, actually, right? It's a tradition. Why is for example, why do Muslim people have their father's name after their name? It's a tradition, right? No one can give a proper answer. So here it's a tradition to begin a poem or a prose with a capitalized word. And you're right, Rihan. Sun is capitalized completely, to be honest. In this case, I have written it without capitals, but to be honest, in the textbook, in the appreciation book, sun is written like this. We call thee fruitful, and that very while a desert fills our seeings in words span. The only thing that we can see is a desert, even though we call the river Nile. What river Nile, Nangi? What river Nile? The personified river Nile, even though we call her fruitful. What is the only thing that we can see? A desert. A desert fills our seeings in word span. When you think of this line right here, line number 4, you think of this image, a desert fills our seeings in word span. The only thing that we can see is a barren desert baby. Now here is another technique, not very important to learn today itself. It's good if you can. If you think about these two things, the fruitful river Nile, right? So even though we are talking about the river Nile, Nangi, we are personifying the river Nile while we are talking about it, right? How did we personify the river Nile? Son of the old moon mountains, African, chief of the pyramid and crocodile. We call thee fruitful, and that very while a desert fills our seeings in word span. The images you get when you look at the words fruitful and desert, dekama ekaida, or do you get opposite images? You get opposite, you get opposite images when you take a look at both of these words. That technique, putting two opposite things next to each other and showing their differences. Now, for example, imagine you got a really tall bugger and you put him in front of a really short angutu mitti, a really tall guy next to a short angutu mitti. That is juxtaposition, right? You take a really dark person, put them next to a really fair person. That is also juxtaposition, right? You take a rich person, put the rich person next to a poor, vagrant, a beggar. That's also juxtaposition, right? So I hope you understand this. When we talk about to the Nile, there is juxtaposition in lines number 3 and lines number 4. We call thee fruitful, and that very while a desert fills our seeings inward span. Isn't that easy? Again, the river Nile has been personified. So we can go for a really short break. The time right now is 8:05, but don't leave though. Don't leave yet. Don't go for a break yet. Now, again, some pupils would love to join our classes. This is the only online class in Sri Lanka that does online properly. As you guys can see, we have invested so much money into online because we believe that it is the future. When so many people shy away from online education, when teachers are reluctant to teach online, when teachers don't empathize with the pupils, and where teachers don't want to give what the pupils want, we are focusing on creating quality online. Is inversion a technique used in the first line? Yes, it's a technique, by the way. Inversion, Asma, is when you jumble the words in a sentence without saying son of the old African moon mountains. We say son of the old moon mountains African. Yes, that's correct. However, we didn't talk about that because it's going to make the seminar a lot more complicated. So yeah, there's a technique called inversion. I believe I've mentioned that here also in the presentation. Again, I'll tell you guys how you can get the presentation also. And not only to the Nile, but to all of, for all of the poems in our syllabus, you guys can get the presentations, which will help you learn a lot, which will help your education journey immensely. So if I'm not mistaken though, give me a moment. I've mentioned inversion somewhere here. Inversion has another, boom, here it is, anastrophe. So anastrophe and inversion are the same thing, okay? Right here. So give me a moment. Right here, inversion. Not very important, so don't worry about it now though. However, when we talk about to the Nile though, all right, we are focusing on the important techniques. So what were the important techniques that we talked about? The techniques were personification and juxtaposition. Old is an epithet, you're right. The guy with a Arabic sounding name, which I can't read. Old is an epithet. What do you mean by epithets? Epithets are adjectives. Epithets are adjectives in English. So old, tall, short, beautiful, they are all epithets. So remember, this is a guy who really knows the syllabus, okay? There is nothing that Javed sir does not know about literature. Baby, I have memorized all of the poems, many of the prose, the dramas in your syllabus, because again, when I have a good understanding regarding the syllabus, you guys can learn the syllabus a lot more easily, given, and then there's no other teacher in Sri Lanka who knows literature like Javed sir, okay? I might sound arrogant, but I have worked really, really hard to get where I am right now. So one more time before we talk about something else, all right? So hope you guys are clear. Hope you know what anastrophe, epithets, anthropomorphism, these are techniques that I am not going to talk about in this seminar because we have a limited amount of time and we can't talk about all of the techniques. However, again, epithets basically are adjectives. Whatever adjective you get, you see is an epithet. So it's not very important to talk about an epithet in a poem. Apart from that, anastrophe is found in the first line. Capitalizing the word sun is not a technique. It is a tradition. Many people in your syllabus also, I believe, if you take a look at a few poems, and even if I'm not mistaken, the Lumber Room, they begin with capitalized words. All right. So before we go to a break, let me talk about Isaac.com, okay? We are trying to revolutionize education, baby. We are trying to revolutionize online education. And by the way, remember, only 100 people can join this meeting, Ayaz. The cap is like 100. The other people are watching our YouTube live, okay? Boom. If you want to join our classes, if you want to be a part of Isaac.com, if you want to support our cause of making online education valuable, you can log into Isaac.com. It's really easy, by the way. It's phonetic, Isaac. You might have heard of a scientist called Isaac Newton. He was named after our website. Isaac Newton was so impressed with our website that he renamed himself. He called himself Isaac. So yeah, log into Isaac.com and create a account, okay? Create a student account by clicking join here. And it'll take you like 5 minutes to create a student account. And once you have created a student account, you've got to log into Isaac.com. Let me use one of my demo accounts here, right? The password is monkey, obviously. And when you log into Isaac.com, you see something like this. This is the notice board. Forget about the notice board. By the way, today's seminar is also on the notice board. Take a look at the left console here, okay? On the left console, if you want to join our classes, click under all classes and live classes. And then you see so many teachers here. We've got Rias here, right? This is an amazing job teaching ICT. We have Miss Arthika, right here. Does an amazing job teaching English language. However, if you want to join your humble Javed sir's classes, you click under, you select your category, which is O-level. You could select your grade, right? Let's say your grade 10, right? You could select your subject, which is English literature. And then you can select your humble Javed sir's name here. And these are the classes that we conduct for English literature. We have 3 separate novel classes. We have, I am the only teacher in Sri Lanka who teaches all 3 novels separately. There is no other teacher who has a good understanding regarding all of these 3 novels, okay? So we teach all 3 novels on Sundays. We have The Prince and the Pauper, we have The Vendor of Sweets, we have a super fast track class for the 2022 batch O-level pupils. If you are a 2022 batch O-level pupil and you are looking to get an A for your exam, it's not too late. You can still turn your B into an A. You can turn your W into a C. You can turn your C into a B, baby. So join through isaac.com. Again, log in, go under all classes and live classes and find Javed Sir's classes. There are so many options, and I know that I will not be able to explain all of these options in this given time. However, take a look at all of the classes in isaac.com when you guys are free. Literally, will take you 5 minutes to create an account, and you guys can join using all classes and live classes on the left console. And don't forget this also, you click on pay now and you can pay online, okay? You have the option to pay online. You have the option to deposit money and upload the receipt. There are so many options that make your life a lot more easier regarding online education. And we can't forget about Javed Sir's favorite feature in isaac.com, and that is the calendar feature. I'll tell you why I love the calendar feature in isaac.com. Okay, let me log in again. Again, it takes like 5 minutes for you to create an account in isaac.com. However, once you log in, we log in using a different account now, okay? Perfect. Once you log in, and once you have joined a class, the recordings of that class will be under this feature called the calendar feature. Let me select my classes very soon, okay? So for example, if you missed the class on Monday, okay, and you want to watch the recording of that class, yes, you can. You can watch the recording using the calendar feature in isaac.com itself. Let me show you, for example, how about this? Boom. You can watch the recording of the calendar feature using isaac.com. Using the you can watch the recording using the calendar feature in isaac.com itself. Takes you like 5 seconds to click on the recording, and the recordings never expire, okay? So let's say you miss the class for some reason, you can watch the recording again and again without expiry. Let's say that you need to revise the lesson done in the class before your exam. You can watch the recording because the recordings never expire. Hell, you can even share the recordings with your friends. You can even share your isaac.com account with your friends. So hope you guys know where the quality online teachers are at, and that is isaac.com. Especially if you want to be a part of our literature class, join through isaac.com. So glad that you guys sat through that, by the way. If you got any doubts regarding what we have done today, okay, and we are not done yet. If you have any doubts regarding isaac.com, if you have any doubts regarding today's lesson, if you want to join through isaac.com and need support, drop us a message through WhatsApp. It's not 779639434, right? Even those of you guys who are watching the YouTube live, boom, here it is. Through isaac.com, okay? Or give us a WhatsApp, drop us a WhatsApp message using this number right here. And I'll give you guys like a 5 minutes long break, okay? And after the 5 minutes long break, I'm going to come back a lot better. And we are going to complete the learning session 4 to the Nile by John Keats, baby. See you guys in 5 minutes, okay? Oh, hi. I'm back again. What's going on? Glad you guys are still here. We're talking about To the Nile by John Keats, 14-line poem, ABBA CD Rhyming, CD Rhyming scheme. The poem is a Petrarchan sonnet. Why is it a Petrarchan sonnet? Because it had 14 lines and it had the ABBA CD rhyming scheme. The river Nile is addressed by the narrator, and the river Nile has been personified. Did you find a metaphor in the poem? In the beginning of the poem, what do you think? Either no, To the Evening Star is not a sonnet. To the Evening Star does not have a formal rhyming scheme. The person who taught you that To the Evening Star is a sonnet is wrong, because To the Evening Star does not have a formal rhyming scheme. To the Nile is the only sonnet in your syllabus. I, the Nangi Dua Magideyo. What was the metaphor we found in the beginning of the poem, though? Do you guys remember? What was the metaphor? It was moon. Moon man, moon mountain. That's a metaphor, right? Take two nouns and put these two nouns together, and they are fake. There is no such thing called moon mountain on earth. Why is it called moon mountain? Because the tippy top of the mountain is milky white color. It happens, right? When the mountain is high up, the tippy top of the mountain becomes milky white color. Son of the old moon mountains, African, chief of the pyramid and crocodile, African pyramid. Again, where can you find pyramids? Sri Lanka, India. No, you find pyramids in Egypt. Where is Egypt? Africa, right? Isn't that easy? So in the beginning, you found the geographical location of the river Nile. You found the metaphor. You found what a sonification. Sata patagala matakian nangi. You got personification. You guys might remember the word sun created masculine personification, right? Masculine personification. Apart from that, you might remember there was a technique. You might remember the desert, right? We call thee fruitful. And that very while, what do you mean by fruitful? It means something that gives you something back, fruitful. It gives you life. It gives you a prosperous future. Fruitful is the opposite of a desert, right? Because a desert is full of death and depression and the lack of resources. Fruitful is the exact opposite. In Sinhala, you can say it's called Saravat Bhava. Exactly, say that. Genius you are. And also, yeah, tutorials will be also provided through isaac.com, okay? If you need the tutorial for this seminar, you can drop me a message through WhatsApp and I'll send you guys all of the tutorials, all of the PDF tutorials, which I have for poetry. And I've got some really good tutorials, baby, for poetry and for literature. However, you can also find the tutorials, the e-tutorials in isaac.com itself. If you go under my calendar and click under any tile here, and you go under e-notes, one moment. If you go under e-notes, you can find the tutorials in the calendar option itself in isaac.com. And if you take a look at a few lessons here, now, for example, you can find like a presentation for the Bear by Anton Chekhov here, right? We've got a lot of notes, to be honest. And one moment. Here we are. Here is a presentation for the Bear by Anton Chekhov, baby, made by your very own Javed, sir. You cannot find tutorials like this anywhere in Sri Lanka because this guy made it. However, if you want to contact Javed, sir, boom, here's my number. Drop me a message through WhatsApp. Sometimes I will reply, or sometimes one of my admins will reply through WhatsApp. It doesn't matter. Whatever you need regarding literature, whatever you need to know regarding isaac.com, drop us a message through here, through WhatsApp, using this number right here. Screenshot tag gaganna mage deyo. All right. So in the end of I believe in the fourth line, we talked about juxtaposition. Neither. Here's another personification, okay? Nurse. What do you mean by nurse? You go to the hospital and there is a missy with an injection, gives you the COVID test. Not that nurse, baby. No. Nurse. of Swat nation since the world began. Nurse here is another personification. Who was the sun? Javed sir. Who was the sun? It was the personified river Nile. Can you believe that? Who was the nurse? The nurse is also the personified river Nile. However, when you take a look at the word sun, it is male. It is a male personification, right? It's a masculine personification. If you take a look at the word nurse, we've got a feminine personification. So the river Nile is personified using a masculine term, a masculine verb, noun, apologies, and a feminine noun. So what do you mean by, I'm not well these days also. That's why my voice sounds horrible. But you guys know that Javed sir doesn't give up easily, right? I had like a week-long fever, a flu, I believe. But then I'm back on track. That's why my voice sounds kind of messed up. Okay. Nurse of Swat nation since the world began. So this right here, again, the narrator is talking to the personified river Nile, right? He has personified the river Nile using a feminine personification. What do you mean by Swat? Swat, as you guys can see, talks about the African nations. Nurse of Swat nations since the world began. Don't forget this, Nangi. Since the world began is a... Now, was the narrator there when the world began? Was the narrator there when the Big Bang happened? No. So when you exaggerate, when you stretch the situation, it's called hyperbole, okay? Now, for example, imagine this. Your mom makes you some kind of a food and you want to get on your mom's good side. You want her to buy you a phone. You want her to gift you something valuable. And you want to get on her good side and you say, Mama, the soru you made today, Mama, is the best food I have ever tasted in my entire life. That is hyperbole, right? Because you have not tasted all the food in the world. You cannot say that the food you tasted is so good. It's hyperbole. Another example, there's a girl that you want to impress and you text her, you tell her, darling, baby, you are the most beautiful girl in the entire world. That right there is a hyperbolic statement, right? That's hyperbole, right? Because have you gone to all of the girls in the world and measured their beauty? Absolutely not. Are you a judge in the Miss Universe competition or pageant? Absolutely not. That is a hyperbolic statement. So what do you mean by hyperbole? When you are exaggerating, when you are stretching something, when you are technically lying, but you're not really lying, right? Nurse of Swat nation since the world began. Who is the narrator talking to? The narrator is talking to the personified river Nile. Apart from that, this is the image that is associated with the term nurse of Swat nation since the world began. So every section of the poem has an image that is associated with it. Okay? The beginning you found son of the old moon mountains, African, boom, right here. And then you found chief of the pyramid and crocodile, we call thee fruitful. And that very while a desert fills our seeing's inward span. Line number 5, nurse of Swat nations since the world began. Tell me, who are Swat nations? African nations, countries where there are black-skinned people, kind of like Javed, Poddak Kaluine the Javed. Countries where there are black-skinned people, nurse of Swat nation since the world began. So what do you mean by nurse? Missy in the hospital? No. A nurse is a what mother? A nurse is a breastfeeding mother. Hope you understand that, okay? So who is the sun? The sun is also the river Nile. What river Nile? Nikang river Nile, personified river Nile. The sun is the personified river Nile. Who is the nurse? The nurse is also the personified river Nile. Can you believe that? Now here is the most complicated part in the poem, okay? I'm your friend Fahim's Fahmi brother. That's crazy, Fahir. You know Fahmi. That's amazing, okay? I'm a huge fan of his name, by the way. Say hi to your mom. By the way, Fahir, is Amal your school? Your Fahmi's brother, right? That's amazing. Okay, glad. Amal is not your school. Okay. I think I'm lagging a bit though. Your mom must really be a huge fan of me, right? Dude. Okay. I don't call him Fahmi. I call him Fahiyu. Can you believe that, Fahir? I call him Fahiyu because he might misunderstand me when I say Fahmi. He's a student of mine. Those of you who are wondering, Fahmi is a student of mine. So yeah, I call him Fahiyu because I don't want him to misunderstand. Like imagine if I'm like, Fahmi, come and he's going to misunderstand me and he's going to do all sorts of things to me. Okay. So going to move forward then. When we talk about the River Nile by the Nile by John Keats, 14-line poem, ABBA CD Rhyming scheme, baby. You've got to understand that it is a poem directed towards the personified River Nile. How was the River Nile personified? One more time, okay? One more time. You guys got to bear with Javed, sir. Keep learning with Javed, sir. Don't give up now, because we have come very far. Son of the old moon mountains, African, chief of the pyramid and crocodile. We call thee fruitful. And that very while, what fills our seeing's inward span? What is the only thing that we can see? A desert fills our seeing's inward span. Nurse of swart nation since the world began, baby. Who is the nurse? May nurse, no. A nurse is a breastfeeding mother. Who is the breastfeeding mother? It is the personified River Nile. Can you believe that? Now here is a rhetorical question directed towards the River Nile. What are rhetorical questions? They are questions that don't need answering. Imagine this. Imagine you got a friend who does something stupid. We all have friends who do stupid things, right? You tell them, hey, are you mad? Your friend does something stupid. I don't know. So you're walking on the road with your friend and your friend starts yelling at a girl, at some kind of a girl on the road, okay? Friends do that shit, right? Especially if your friend is like Javed, sir, definitely. Your friend starts yelling at a girl, like, hey, Fatima, ooh. Then you say, Machang, are you mad? Pissu the bang paitiyama. That is a what question? It's a rhetorical question, baby. Why not? The girl comes at you and she takes a slip and she's like, hey, do you know who my father is? Do you know who my nana is? So we don't know who her father is. We don't want to know who her father is. But when she asks you that question, hey, do you know who my father is? Either her father is a policeman or her father is a thug. Her father is like Ayya in some area. So that they are rhetorical questions. Hope you understand that, okay? A rhetorical question is a question that doesn't need an answer. Can the River Nile answer this question? What do you guys think? Yes, I'm the River Nile. I am so fruitful. Absolutely not. It is a rhetorical question. When the narrator asks the personified River Nile this question, art thou so fruitful? Or dost thou beguile such men to honor thee? He is talking to the personified River Nile. That is a rhetorical question. By the way, where did we see the word fruitful before this? We call thee fruitful. And that very while a desert fills our seeing's inward span. That is a part of the poem where we found the word fruitful. Nangi, it's a repetition. It's a repetition. What do you mean by repetition? Repeating the same thing again. We found the word fruitful in 2 places in the poem, right? Let me show you. Here's the entire poem. How many lines do you have in the poem? You've got 14 lines. Kannu rasvaha, okay? Ganangan depa eva. You got 14 lines in the poem right here. The rhyming scheme, Abba, Abba, CD, CD, CD rhyming scheme. What kind of a sonnet is it? It is a Petrarchan sonnet. The word fruitful is found here. And the word fruitful is found here. That is why it is a repetition. Art thou so fruitful, or dost thou beguile such men to honor thee who won with toil? Let me show you guys, okay? Are you so fruitful? Or dost? Again, remember, what language is this? Dost kiyanne do nangi. Archaic language. Do you guys remember archaic language? Genius, you are nangi. Say that. Archaic language. Or do you? Thou is also archaic language, right? Thou means you. Beguile. The word beguile means enchant, charm. So how do you charm someone? Using your what? Your beauty, right? So imagine that you came to Javed's house. Can I enchant you using my beauty? Can I dance in front of you and enchant you? Absolutely not, because Javed isn't beautiful, right? But imagine if you were to go to a Fatima's house. No one's home. She starts dancing around you. You are enchanted, aren't you? Again, how do you enchant someone? Using your beauty. Where have we seen the word enchant? We found the word enchant inside the word beguile, okay? Begil neme. You guys might have heard of a movie called Begil. No, beguile. Art thou so fruitful, or dost thou beguile such men to honor thee? Who are these men? We have a problem here. Who are these men? These men are honoring. Who are they honoring? The river Nile. What river Nile? Nikang river Nile? No, the personified river Nile. Who are these men though? These men are worn with toil. What do you mean by worn? Feeling tired. What do you mean by toil? Toilet. They are in the toilet. Near the river, there's a toilet. And they're washing themselves after using the toilet. No, toil means hard work, baby. These men have done hard work. Hard work, okay? These men, they honor the river Nile. Why are they honoring the river Nile? Because the river Nile is useless? Or because the river Nile is useful? What do you guys think? They honor the river Nile because the river Nile is useful. These men are hardworking men. We can assume that these men might have built the pyramids, right? It's obvious, isn't it? We can assume that these men have built the pyramids. Art thou so fruitful? What do you mean by art? Art is also archaic language. Art is another word for Are you so fruitful? Art thou. Thou means you, right? Are you? Art is are. Are you so fruitful, or dost thou beguile such men to honor thee who rest for 1 moment? Art thou so fruitful, or dost thou beguile such men to honor thee who worn with toil rest for a space? Twixt Cairo and Deccan. Remember very carefully, in the teacher's guide, they say that Deccan is a place, but that is Deccan with 2 C's, okay? In the teacher's guide, they say that Deccan is a place. It's actually a plateau. It's kind of like a land with water, right? But no, here Deccan is a constellation, right? A constellation is a collection of stars. It's kind of complicated. So you have to purposely ignore this part, all right? So right now, you know that the narrator is talking to the personified river Nile. The narrator is asking the river Nile, what question? How old are you, river Nile? No. The narrator is asking the river Nile a rhetorical question. Art thou so fruitful? Are you really that valuable? Are you really that fruitful? Or dost thou beguile such men to honor thee? Why do these men respect the river Nile? Because they are able to rest between rest between, betwixt. Betwixt is a archaic word. Remember archaic? What do you mean by archaic language? Outdated and formal. Betwixt Cairo and Deccan. Don't forget, Cairo is a place in Egypt. Deccan actually represents the sky, okay? Actually represents the constellations in the sky. There is a constellation called Deccan. The problem is, in the teacher's guide, they say that Deccan is a place. They won't ask you what Deccan is, okay? Just mention that these men are these nikang inna kalakanni yakkuda, like Sri Lankan politicians, nikang inna kalakanni yakkuda, or are they hard-working men? What do you think, Nang? Help me out. These are hard-working men because the word toil is found here, right? What do you mean by toil? Toilet yanawa nemei baba. Toil means hardworking. One with toil rest for space twixt Cairo and Deccan. These men rest for a space in the river Nile, near the river Nile, in the river Nile, near the river Nile, between Cairo and Deccan. Do we know what Deccan is? No. In the teacher's guide, they have given us a wrong information. We can't correct that. We can't say what Deccan is, but we can say these people rest between Cairo and Deccan, right? So we don't know what Deccan is. We don't care. All that we can say about it is that Cairo and Deccan is where these people rest between. Who are these people? Hardworking people. Art thou so fruitful, or dost thou beguile? What do you mean by beguile? Beguile means enchant. Or dost thou beguile such men to honor thee, who won with toil rest for a space twixt Cairo and Deccan? It's really valuable, right? The river Nile is so valuable, baby. The river Nile only gives according to the narrator. That's the Udakal. ABBAABBA Kal, okay? ABBAABBA ends here. After ABBAABBA, what do you get, Baba? You get CD, CD, CD. Now, if you take a look at CD, 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 how many lines can you find here? Say the 6 lines, right? You find 6 lines here, baby. And if you take a look at these 6 lines, all right? Now, there are techniques that I am not going to talk about. There's something called Volta. We won't talk about this, all right? There's something called tone. We won't talk about this. But I will talk about the meanings behind these 6 lines. 6 lines are called the sestet, while the 8 lines are called the octave. The octave is the Udakal, sestet is the Yatakal. Oh, may dark fancies they surely do. What do you mean by dark? Now, again, we have dark people. Maybe in the seminar also there might be dark people. Even Javed says, poddak dark wage neda. But here, dark is a symbol. Symbol nemei, symbol. What does it symbolize? It symbolizes evil, okay? It symbolizes evil. Oh, may dark fancies fancies means like, okay? Oh, may dark fancies men may kalitika. I have broken into other pieces, okay? Same thing. One moment, please. Gotta kiss my bottle again. I love kissing my bottle. What's the technique? When Javed kisses his bottle, it's called genius. You are, baby. Personification. The river Nile is also personified. Can you believe that? We talked about son of the old moon mountains, African, chief of the pyramid and crocodile. We call art thou so fruitful? Or no, we call thee fruitful, and that very while a desert fills our seeings inward span. Nurse of swart nations since the world began. Did I make a mistake? Feels like I made a mistake. One more time, okay? Son of the old moon mountains, African, chief of the pyramid and crocodile, we call thee fruitful, and that very while a desert fills our seeings inward span. Nurse of swart nations since the world began. Art thou so fruitful, or dost thou beguile such men to honor thee? Rest for a space twixt Cairo and Deccan. Yeah, there we are. Perfect. 8 lines, okay? Memorize the hell out of the poem. Pinky promise with Javed, sir. Memorize the hell out of the poem. Oh, may dark fancy, sir. Oh, may. Again, dark is a symbolism for what people? Good people or evil people? Evil people. But if you ask me, I believe that colors doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The color of your skin doesn't matter. Javed says multicolored, okay? Some parts of my body is really fair. Now, for example, my chest is like very fair. And some parts of my body is like really dark. We'll talk about that later. So the color doesn't matter though. But here in this example, the word dark is a symbol for what people? Evil people, right? Oh, may dark fancies, evil people, they like doing good or bad. You might have seen error messages, right, in your computer. Error messages, are they good or bad? They're bad. Evil people like doing bad. Oh, may dark fancies, they surely do. Who are they? Good people or evil people? Evil people, right? Absolutely. So as I was saying though, the evil people, they fancy, they like doing harami vela. They surely do. 'Tis ignorance that makes a barren waste of all beyond itself. What do you mean by ignorance? Ignorance means stupidity. Tis neme, tis, right? It is. Tis is another archaic contraction, another archaic term for it is. 'Tis ignorance that make a barren waste of all beyond itself. What do you mean by barren? What's the opposite of barren? We came across a word called whatful? Fruitful. What do you mean by fruitful? Giving you fruits. No, fruitful means giving you value back. Again, what is fruitful into the Nile by John Keats? It is the river Nile that is fruitful, right? So again, the word fancy means like, by the way, okay? Fancies means like, dark fancies. Now, when you say I fancy a cup of tea, you want a cup of tea, right? You want to drink a cup of tea. You like to have a cup of tea, fancy. I fancy playing tennis with my friends. You like playing tennis. Oh, may dark fancies. What does that mean? Evil people like doing harami vela, error. Means wrongdoing. Oh, may dark fancies, they surely do. 'Tis ignorance that make a barren waste of all beyond itself. What do you mean by all beyond itself? Stupidity. Stupidity wastes everything around it. What do we waste in this poem? If someone can tell me, please, what kind of a poem is this? It's a nature poem, right? What do people waste the most? What do you think? People waste nature the most, right? So people who waste nature, are they good people or are they evil people? They are evil people. People who waste nature, are they brilliant people or are they stupid people? Nangi, they are stupid people. Again, if you want to watch the entire seminar, here is the YouTube live stream link, okay? Comment, share, like, subscribe. So if you guys want to watch the full seminar, sometimes you guys might have joined in the very end. Boom. There is the YouTube live stream link here in the chat. Take a look at it. Take a look at the entire seminar. And again, drop a like, drop like a comment. That'll be awesome, okay? Share it with your friends, with your grandma, with your next door neighbor, right? Spam the hell out of your WhatsApp and help Isaac.com out, okay? Because we are trying to give you the best version of education possible. We are taking education online, baby. This is the revolution of online education. It's finally here. It is disguised in the package of Isaac.com. I'll talk about Isaac.com after we are done with the seminar, okay? So one more time. Got my eyes closed, okay? Son of the old moon mountains, African, chief of the pyramid and crocodile, art thou so fruitful, or dost thou beguile such men to honor thee? I think I made a mistake again. I'm trying my best, okay? So sometimes I might mess things up. One more time, okay? Son of the old moon mountains, African, chief of the pyramid and crocodile, we call thee fruitful and that very while. We call thee fruitful and that very while. A desert fills our seeing's inward span. Nurse of what nations since the world began? Art thou so fruitful, or dost thou beguile such men to honor thee, who, worn with toil, rest for a space twixt Cairo and Deccan? If you understand the meanings of the archaic words, if you understand the techniques in the poem, you can actually feel the poem, right? That is where passion comes in. You have to have a good understanding regarding the lesson to be passionate about it. When you are learning literature, you are not an artist. You are a lawyer, okay? You have to behave like a lawyer. You are trying to find evidence to prove your points in the analysis. Many people make the mistake by being creative when learning literature. No, you got to memorize. You have to think about points of argument. You have to prove your ideas. You have to think like a lawyer. Put your hands up if you were able to memorize the Udakal, the octave. Very proud of you guys, okay? If you did not, don't worry. Go back, watch the recording, watch the live stream, and make sure you guys memorize the poem, because I promise you, if you memorize 4 poems under one theme, you can write any analysis in the exam. Can you believe that? 4 poems under one theme, whatever analysis question is given to you under poetry, you can write that. We'll talk about that later in the future. We'll talk about your papers and your exam level questions in the future. At the moment, focus on to the Nile. Oh, may dark fancies evil people like doing. Harami vela, they surely do. 'Tis ignorance. These people, what do they waste? They waste nature. Remember, to the Nile is a poem under the theme of nature. 'Tis ignorance that makes a barren waste of all beyond itself. Thou dost bedew green. A bedew means, now the narrator is talking to the river Nile again. In this part, the narrator says that the river Nile and all the other rivers are the same. Thou dost bedew. You do bedew. Are bidet shower, right? You guys know bidet showers in the bathroom, comment decay, right? Too many bathroom examples in this class. For example, the toilet is calling my name is a personification. Bedew reminds me of the bidet shower. And that is how I remember sprinkling what, Baba? Bedew here means the sprinkling of water. Hope you understand that, baby. 'Tis ignorance that makes a barren waste of all beyond itself. What do you mean by barren? Fertile, infertile? Infertile. Is it fruitful or the opposite of fruitful? What do you guys think? It's the opposite. It is the opposite of the word fruitful, baby. Oh, may dark fancies, they surely do. 'Tis ignorance that makes a barren waste of all beyond itself. Thou dost bedew green. Green is a symbol for nature. The river Nile supplements the natural ecosystem around it, right? The foliage, the flora, right? In science, they say flora. In literature, we say foliage. Foliage is another word for trees, okay? Maramval, gus, green, symbol for nature. Thou dost bedew green. Rushes like our rivers. Can someone tell me the technique here? Russia's like our rivers. The river Nile is like our rivers. What are our rivers? Mahavali. Tell me. Bere. I don't know. Mahavali. That's the only river I know. Help me out. Tell me some rivers. Tell me some Sri Lankan rivers. Palu. Kalani, I forgot. Kalani. I live in Colombo, by the way. Exactly. You guys know, right? It's a simile. A simile is kind of like a metaphor, but then we use words like, we use the word as, right? So simile is kind of like a metaphor. If you say Fatima is a monkey, that's a metaphor. But if you say that Fatima is like a monkey, that's a simile. So I hope you understand that. A green rushes like our rivers, and dost taste the pleasant sunrise. The river Nile is tasting the pleasant sunrise. Can the river Nile really do it? Or is it personification? Personification. A tasting is done by humans, right? The river Nile tasting the pleasant sunrise is also a personification. Do you come to schools for seminars? I don't, Asma. Everything is online, okay? The only thing that we do in Isaac.com is online education, nothing physical, 100% online. You guys won't believe this. If you properly learn online, if you properly start learning online, you make an environment at home that helps you study it at home itself. So many pupils, especially teenagers, are not able to study at home. They need to go to school. They need to go to the library. They need to go to a friend's house to study. But if you start learning online, your house becomes, or your room, or your working area becomes a study-friendly space. That's why we advocate online. And then we have pupils from Kandy, from Jaffna, from all around the country. It will not be possible to conduct physical classes for all of those pupils, right? And that's why we started online in Isaac.com. We exclusively focus on online education. Okay, I'll talk about Isaac in the end of this. Obviously, Colombo, right? How can I forget Nabil? Obviously, Colombo, my Maharasi will. Okay, gonna move forward. Taste the pleasant sunrise. Green isles hast thou too. Now, in rivers, you find tiny triangular islands called deltas, right? Inside rivers, you find like tiny islands, green deltas, green isles. Hast thou too. What language is this? Hast. Cha. Ik language. Green isles hast thou too. You also have green islands. Green is a what addition? It's a repetition, right? Green isles hast thou too, and to the sea as happily dost haste. You go to the sea slowly, or satapata gala, quickly. In the end, where does the river Nile go to? It goes to the sea, right? All rivers in the world, they end in the sea, right? All of the rivers, they end in the sea. So that is why the river Nile is similar to what rivers? Our rivers, right? Rivers like Mahavali, Kalani, Nilwala, Kalu. Kalu is a river, right? Someone in the chat was like, Kalu is a river. Is Kalu really a river? It sounds like some dog's name, you know? All right, so we're done with the session real quickly. Here is the meaning of the sestet, okay? The Atakal, darkness prefers wrongdoing. Evil people surely do prefer wrongdoing. It is stupidity that wastes everything around it. What are we wasting? What are humans wasting? Time, money? No. Nature, right? To the Nile is a 14-line poem that is a Petrarchan sonnet with the ABBAABBA CDCDCD rhyming scheme under the theme of nature, baby. It is stupidity that wastes everything outside of itself. You sprinkle water on the green vegetation. You rush like our rivers, simile. You taste the pleasant sunrise. You have green islands. You happily rush to the sea. Personification. Remember the word bidiyu kiyane mokadda? Bide shawareka wage. It is sprinkling water on green. So we're done with our session. If you want to join our classes, if you want to support us, if you want to support us, go to our YouTube link and drop a like, drop a comment, comment your school, recommend us to your friends. That will be awesome. If you have any complaints, if you have anything to critique us about, drop me a message through WhatsApp if you want to give me your feedback. I would appreciate that. As a parent, as a teacher, as a student, it's not 7796394434. If you want to get tutorials and notes for free like this, drop us a message asking for the tutorials. And finally, you can't forget our magnum opus. You can't forget the website, isaac.com, baby. Become a student in isaac.com. Take your education journey to the next level. Upgrade your online education. Create a student profile joining isaac.com. Log in. Look under all classes. Look under live classes. Look for Javed sir's name and join this guy's classes. There are so many options you guys can choose from. And we cover everything regarding literature. Before you leave, son of the old moon mountains, African, Aswaha, okay? Son of the old moon mountain, African, chief of the pyramid and crocodile. We call thee fruitful, and that very while a desert fills our seeing's inward span. Nurse of swart nations since the world began. Art thou so fruitful, or dost thou beguile such men to honor thee, who rest for a space, who won with toil, rest for a space twixt Cairo and Deccan? Nurse of swart nations since the world began. I believe something like that. Don't mind that, okay? One more time, okay? Oh, the ending part. Oh, may dark fancies they surely do. 'Tis ignorance that makes a barren waste of all beyond itself. Thou dost bid you green, rushes like our rivers, and dost taste the pleasant sunrise. Green isles hast thou too, and to the sea dost happily haste. Okay, as a teacher, I also can make mistakes with the poem. I promise you, memorizing the poem will make your life a lot more easier. Before you leave, To the Nile by John Keats is a grade 10, 14-line poem with the ABBAABBA CD rhyming scheme. It is a Petrarchan sonnet. So proud that you guys were able to give me 2 hours of your time to be your teacher. I would appreciate that you guys, if you guys would make me your permanent literature teacher, because you know where the best is at, and that is isaac.com. Until next time, or until I see you in my classes, dab with Javed sir, flex with Javed sir, baby. I'm going to see you guys